Have you ever felt a surge of excitement when a new dream sparks inside you? A fresh idea, a vision for the future, or a project that makes your heart race? It might be starting your own business, learning a new craft, traveling to a place you've always longed for, or even reinventing your life after 60. That energy is powerful. So powerful, in fact, that the first impulse is to share it, to tell a friend, a family member, or someone you trust. You want them to feel what you feel, to validate your excitement, to support your vision. But here's a quiet truth that Cicero would nod at with his timeless Roman wisdom. The more you speak your dreams out loud, the more they begin to dissolve into thin air. Cicero, the Roman statesman and philosopher, once said, "The more secrets you share, the less of yourself remains." He wasn't talking about deception or withdrawal. He was talking about preserving inner strength, protecting the sacred energy of a thought before it's ready to face the world. Just like a flame in the wind, dreams in their early form are delicate. They need shelter, not exposure. And modern psychology agrees. Studies show that when we talk about our goals out loud, especially before we've taken meaningful action, our brains experience a premature sense of reward. It's as if we trick ourselves into believing we've already accomplished something just because we verbalized it. The result? We lose momentum. We feel satisfied too soon. And that dream, once burning bright, begins to dim. But it's not just about biology or science. It's about emotional safety. Because not everyone you share your dreams with will react the way you hope. Some will discourage you. Some might mock you. Some, even those close to you, may carry silent envy. Not because they're bad people, but because your courage reminds them of the dreams they abandoned. And that's a mirror many don't want to face. Cicero taught that prudence is one of the highest virtues. Knowing what to say, when to say it, and especially what not to say. The dreams that live in your heart are yours to nurture. When you speak too soon, you open a door not just to encouragement, but to criticism, doubt, or even sabotage. Think back for a moment. Have you ever shared an idea with someone full of passion, only to be met with a raised eyebrow or a cold, "good luck with that"? And did that moment leave a crack in your confidence? That's the danger of exposing something too early. Not because your dream wasn't good enough, but because it wasn't strong enough yet to survive outside of you. Cicero would remind us, let your actions speak before your words. Prove to yourself first. Take steps in silence. Build in the shadows, and let results make the announcement for you. That doesn't mean living in isolation or cutting yourself off from people. It means knowing who earns the right to hear your deepest ambitions. Not everyone deserves access to your inner world, and not every ear can hold your vision with care. There's a Latin term that fits perfectly here: silentium est aureum. Silence is golden. This isn't just a poetic phrase. It's a strategy, a shield, a choice. When your dreams are still in their infancy, hold them close. Let them grow roots before you show the world the flower. Instead of sharing too soon, do this. Turn inward. Write about your dream, sketch it, plan it, research, act. The more energy you pour into building quietly, the stronger that dream becomes. Not just in your mind, but in reality. And here's something else most people miss. Your silence is not just protection. It's power. In a world that constantly broadcasts every move, your decision to move in silence creates momentum. You're not seeking validation. You're not waiting for applause. You're focused. And that focus is rare, respected, and deeply magnetic. Remember, Cicero lived in a world of political betrayal, shifting alliances, and brutal judgment. To survive, and more importantly, to thrive, he knew when to speak and when to stay silent. If a Roman philosopher could navigate the Senate with caution and restraint, surely we can learn to guard our modern-day dreams until they're strong enough to stand on their own. So before you tell the world what you're planning to do next, Ask yourself, is this dream ready to walk? Or does it still need me to carry it a little longer in silence? Because once you speak, you cannot take it back. And sometimes, the most powerful step you can take is the one no one sees, yet. We live in a time when everyone has something to say, and often they say it loudly. Social media has made it almost instinctual to share everything we're thinking, doing, or planning. We announce our goals before we've taken our first step. We post about new beginnings while they're still just fragile ideas. And most of the time, we expect that sharing our dreams will attract support, encouragement, even applause. But what happens more often is the opposite: confusion, distraction, and noise. When you reveal your dream too early, you invite opinions from people who were never meant to be part of that process. Suddenly, your vision isn't just yours anymore. It becomes a topic for discussion, for comparison, for judgment. And even if you're strong, even if you think you're immune, that noise gets in. A single comment like, "Are you sure you can do that?" or "Isn't it too late for this?" can create doubt where before there was only fire. Cicero warned against the influence of the crowd. In his time, the crowd meant the Senate, the forum, the masses swayed by emotion rather than reason. He believed that true wisdom came from reflection, not reaction. He said, "It is the peculiar quality of a fool to perceive the faults of others and to forget his own. When you share your dream too soon, you give the fools a front-row seat. People will project their fears, their limits, their failures onto your vision. And if you're not careful, you might start seeing your dream through their eyes, not your own." There's another layer to this: expectations. The moment you say, "I'm going to do this," the world begins to watch. And whether they say it out loud or not, there's now pressure. Pressure to perform. Pressure to prove. You've traded your private goal for public accountability. Not the kind that drives you, but the kind that crushes you. And here's the twist. Many people talk about their dreams to feel validated, but in doing so, they lose the very freedom that dream gave them in the first place. It's not that people are trying to sabotage you. Most of the time, they think they're helping. They offer advice. They ask questions. They suggest alternatives. But instead of feeling inspired, you feel overwhelmed. Instead of acting, you start defending your idea. Instead of moving forward, you get stuck trying to explain a vision that wasn't meant to be explained. Not yet. Cicero understood the power of solitude. He valued time alone with one's thoughts, away from the opinions of the crowd. In his letters, he often wrote about the need for stillness, not just physical, but mental. When you protect your dream in silence, you give it the space to mature. You allow it to develop depth, clarity, and resilience. It becomes yours in a way that no comment, no criticism, no outside voice can shake. Let's be honest. We all crave connection. We want someone to say, "That's amazing," or "You can do this." But that desire can backfire when it leads us to speak before we're ready. If your dream is a seed, then early sharing is like digging it up to show people it's growing. And what happens when you keep disturbing the soil? The seed never takes root. Instead of seeking praise, seek progress. Build quietly. Focus your energy on the next step, not on the next announcement. Let your results surprise people. Let them wonder how you did it. Let your silence speak volumes. Cicero said, "Silence is one of the great arts of conversation." In other words, sometimes saying nothing is the most powerful message of all. There's also something sacred about building alone. In the silence, you hear your real voice. You reconnect with what truly matters to you, not what others expect, not what the world wants to hear, but what you want to create. That clarity is rare, and once you taste it, you'll never want to trade it for shallow approval again. Think about this. Every great achievement in history started in silence. The writer before the first word, the inventor before the first sketch, the traveler before the first ticket. And all of them had one thing in common: they believed quietly, acted privately, and let their work speak first. So the next time you feel the urge to share your dream, pause. Ask yourself, am I sharing to inspire or to be reassured? Am I speaking from strength or from fear? Is this idea strong enough to survive the noise? Or does it still need me, quietly, patiently, to help it grow? Because in a world where everyone is shouting, the one who moves in silence stands out. At the root of our need to share lies something deeper than we often admit. Fear. The fear of being alone in our vision, the fear of failure, the fear that if no one knows what we're doing, maybe it doesn't matter. So we speak, we announce, we look for witnesses, not because it helps the dream grow, but because it soothes the ache of uncertainty. But what if that ache is exactly where the magic begins? Cicero believed that every worthy endeavor begins with self-examination. He wrote, "To be ignorant of what occurred before you were born is to remain always a child." He meant that self-awareness and wisdom must go hand in hand. When we rush to tell others what we intend to do, we often skip the part where we sit with our own doubts, our own questions, our own insecurities. And yet, facing those feelings in silence is what makes the dream stronger, not the approval of others. The truth is, sharing prematurely is often an escape. Instead of doing the work, we talk about the work. Instead of facing resistance, we seek reassurance. But Cicero would argue that maturity, in philosophy, in life, in any pursuit, comes when we stop outsourcing our confidence, when we stop needing someone else to believe in our dream so we can finally believe in it too. Think of the moments in your life when you achieved something meaningful. Chances are, the most powerful growth happened not when you were being praised, but when you were challenged, when no one was watching, when you had to push through the discomfort of doing something alone. That solitude, though uncomfortable, carved a deeper strength within you, one that no applause could ever give. Cicero taught that internal discipline was the root of liberty, that real freedom comes not from what others give us, but from what we build inside. And in a world that constantly demands updates, where silence feels suspicious and privacy is rare, choosing to hold your dream close is a quiet rebellion. It's saying, I don't need you to believe in me for this to be real. I believe in it enough to protect it. Here's something no one tells you. When you stop talking and start doing, something inside you shifts. You become the person your dream needs you to be. Not someone performing, but someone transforming. Your confidence stops depending on the reactions of others and begins to grow from the actions you take. Slowly, quietly, authentically. And there's another layer. One that matters deeply for those over 60. At this stage of life, you've seen enough to know that not every opinion carries wisdom. Not every piece of advice is grounded in truth. You've learned, sometimes painfully, that people speak from their own filters, not yours. That someone's doubt says more about them than about your idea. That silence, far from being emptiness, is full of potential. Many older adults carry dreams they've never spoken, or dreams they once shared and were talked out of. Perhaps you felt that. Maybe you had an idea years ago, mentioned it once, and someone close to you said, "That's not realistic," and so you let it go. But the dream never let you go. It's still there, waiting, asking if you're finally ready, not to announce it to the world, but to trust it enough to begin again, quietly. Cicero, who lived through betrayal, exile, and loss, found strength not in noise, but in meaning, in aligning action with inner truth, in protecting what matters. He would tell us, do not abandon your dream just because others can't see it. Their eyes were never meant to carry your vision. You don't need a crowd to begin. You don't need an audience to matter. You don't even need a cheerleader. You need courage. You need patience. You need the quiet discipline to say, I'm doing this for me, and I don't need to prove it to anyone. Because in the silence of commitment, you build something far more powerful than approval. You build trust with yourself. And that trust? That's what makes the dream real. Not the noise, not the applause, not the likes. Just you. doing the work step by step without needing the world to clap. There's something incredibly powerful and incredibly rare about a person who walks quietly toward their goal. In a world obsessed with visibility, with being seen, liked, and acknowledged, choosing to build in silence can feel almost radical. But Cicero would say that's where true strength lies, not in the performance, but in the practice, not in being noticed, but in being grounded. Every time you take a step forward without announcing it, you reclaim your power. You're not waiting for permission. You're not asking for validation. You're moving because something inside you has decided that this matters, and that's enough. That internal compass, once activated, becomes one of the most reliable forces in your life. And the more you trust it, the less you need the noise around you. Cicero believed that a person's dignity was rooted in their character, not their reputation. In other words, who you are when no one is watching matters far more than how others perceive you. And that's exactly what happens when you stop sharing your dreams prematurely. You stop performing and start becoming. You enter a space of real integrity, where your words and your actions are aligned, even if no one else sees it yet. And here's what most people never understand. When you hold your dream close, you protect its shape. You prevent it from being distorted by outside opinions, fears, and projections. Have you ever noticed how easy it is for someone else's doubt to shrink your enthusiasm? Or how someone's casual remark can make you second-guess yourself? That doesn't happen in silence. In silence, your dream takes its own form, unfiltered, authentic, whole. There's also a beautiful intimacy in this kind of journey. It becomes deeply personal. Instead of being driven by external rewards, you begin to value internal progress. You start asking better questions. Am I growing? Am I showing up for myself? Am I doing this because it matters to me, not because I want someone else to approve? These are the questions that create resilience, and resilience is what keeps your dream alive when the road gets tough. Cicero spoke often about inner peace, about the importance of being at harmony with oneself. And peace doesn't come from overexposure. It comes from balance, from knowing when to speak and when to wait, when to act boldly and when to build quietly. The quiet path isn't a weak path. It's a wise one. It's the road of those who understand that time is an ally, not a threat, that patience isn't passivity, but power. And it's worth asking, what kind of legacy do you want to build? One made of noise and scattered efforts, or one made of steady, meaningful actions? The people who make the greatest impact aren't always the loudest. They're often the ones who listen deeply to themselves, to the world, to something higher. They took their time. They honored the process. They let their work speak for itself. If you're over 60, this might feel especially relevant, because you've already witnessed how fast the world changes. You've seen trends come and go. You've seen people chase attention only to be forgotten. But you also know the quiet satisfaction of doing something real, something that lasts. At this stage of life, you don't need to impress anyone. You need to fulfill something within, a calling, a purpose, a dream that waited patiently for you to be ready, not to share it, but to live it. And when you walk that path, something shifts. You begin to radiate a different kind of confidence, the kind that doesn't need to be loud, the kind that doesn't demand applause, the kind that comes from knowing you're exactly where you need to be, doing exactly what you need to do, even if no one else sees it yet. That's the kind of strength Cicero admired. That's the kind of strength that changes lives. So the next time you feel tempted to share your vision too soon, breathe. Return to the silence. Let it hold you. Let it shape you. Let it remind you that some of the most powerful transformations happen in private, long before the world ever notices. There is a strange kind of freedom that arises when you stop explaining yourself, when you no longer feel the need to justify your dreams, your pace, or your reasons. At first, it feels uncomfortable, even lonely, but soon it becomes empowering, because in that silence, you reclaim authority over your own life. You become the only person you have to convince, and that changes everything. Cicero once observed that freedom is a possession of inestimable value. But freedom, he argued, is not the absence of rules or responsibilities. It is the ability to live according to reason, not impulse. And in today's world, where impulsive communication is the norm, holding your dream in silence becomes a rational, intentional act. It's not that you're hiding, it's that you're choosing not to give your power away. You begin to understand that your time, your energy, and your vision are sacred resources. Not everyone deserves access to them. Not because others are unworthy, but because your dream deserves a safe space to grow. You wouldn't hand over your child to strangers before they've learned to walk. In the same way, your dream, especially in its earliest form, needs protection, not publicity. Nurture it. Strengthen it. Let it find its legs. Then decide who, if anyone, gets to walk alongside it. When you live this way, you also start to notice something remarkable. The less you talk, the more you do. Your energy isn't scattered explaining or defending or anticipating reactions. It's fully invested in action, in building, in refining. And with every small win, your confidence becomes quieter, but deeper. You stop seeking recognition and start seeking mastery. You stop needing applause and start cultivating peace. Cicero taught that true contentment doesn't come from others' approval, but from inner harmony. He said, "He who is not content with what he has would not be content with what he would like to have." In other words, always needing more praise, more validation, more attention, is a trap. But choosing less noise, less exposure, less need for others to understand you can open the door to a life of deeper satisfaction. This matters even more as we age, because after 60, the noise of the world often begins to feel exhausting. You've spent decades explaining yourself to employers, to partners, to family, to society, and now you might be realizing that much of that was unnecessary. That your soul never needed to be understood by the crowd. It only needed to be honored by you. And so, a quiet revolution begins. You start creating not to be admired, but because it brings you joy. You start planning not to impress others, but because you feel alive with purpose again. You may no longer be chasing dreams the way you did at 20, but you're choosing them with greater clarity, greater wisdom, and far more courage. Because now you know the opinions of others come and go. But the feeling of living in alignment with yourself, that stays. You might start journaling instead of announcing, sketching instead of posting, acting instead of updating. And what you'll find is that your world becomes calmer, richer, and more meaningful. You'll feel less distracted, more present. You'll hear your own voice more clearly. And perhaps, for the first time in years, you'll realize this voice has been enough all along. Silence, then, isn't absence. It's presence. It's focus. It's trust. It's you saying to the universe, I'm ready to walk this path without needing an audience. I'm ready to show up without needing applause. I'm ready to believe in this dream, even if no one else does. And that, according to Cicero, is the heart of wisdom. The ability to choose what is right over what is easy, to value truth over popularity, to choose the quiet strength of inner conviction over the fleeting buzz of external praise. In this silence, you gain something you never expected: peace. Not because everything is perfect, not because all your fears disappear, but because you're no longer outsourcing your power. You've stopped asking for permission. You've stopped explaining your worth. You've started becoming the person you needed when your dream first appeared. And that's the kind of life that doesn't just achieve dreams, it honors them. At some point in your journey, something beautiful happens. The dream that once felt fragile, the one you protected in silence, nourished with patience, and carried without applause, begins to take form. Slowly at first, quietly, but steadily. And then one day, almost without realizing it, you look around and realize it's happening. Not because you told the world, but because you didn't have to. This is the moment Cicero would have called fructus silenti, the fruit of silence, when your actions begin to speak so clearly that you no longer need to, when your consistency says more than your announcements ever could, when your life becomes the proof, the message, and the answer, all at once, all. And here's the secret. People notice. They may not have believed you in the beginning, maybe because you never told them, or maybe because you did, and they dismissed it. But now they feel the shift. They see the glow in your eyes, the calm in your voice, the quiet certainty in your steps. They may ask, what changed? But the truth is, you did. And you did it in silence. You no longer feel the need to prove anything. You don't chase recognition. You don't need validation. You walk through your day with a kind of inner stability that can't be faked, and it can't be taken from you. That's the reward of holding your vision close, of honoring your path privately, of understanding that not everything sacred needs to be shared. Cicero believed in the discipline of thought, the wisdom of restraint, and the power of living with intention. If he were alive today, he would likely be overwhelmed by the noise of our age, the constant broadcasting, the oversharing, the fear of being unseen. But he would also recognize the rare few who walk differently, who choose depth over display, meaning over attention, silence over noise. And maybe that's you now. Maybe you're no longer looking for approval. You're building something real. Maybe you're no longer searching for an audience. You're living with authenticity. Maybe you've discovered that the people who matter most aren't the ones who clap when you speak, but the ones who feel your presence when you don't. And maybe, just maybe, the person who needed to believe in you all along was you. So if you've been holding a dream quietly, let this be your sign. You're not behind, you're not late, you're not invisible. You're exactly where you need to be. And everything you've built in silence has been preparing you for what comes next. Trust it. Stay the course. And when the time is right, not when you feel pressured, not when you feel watched, but when you feel ready, let your dream step forward. Not as a declaration, but as a revelation. Because the most powerful dreams don't arrive with a shout. They arrive with certainty, with strength, with results that speak louder than any words ever could. So hold your dream close, build in the quiet, honor your path, and let your life, not your lips, tell the world who you are. Thank you for being here. If this message touched something inside you, consider subscribing and leaving a comment below. What dream have you been carrying in silence? What would it mean to you to let it grow without noise? Your story matters. And this community exists to remind you that you're not alone on this quiet, powerful path. Until next time, keep walking gently and keep believing, even in silence.